Hi, welcome to Dasma Wargaming. This is our part 2 of our best beginner armies for Age of Sigmar tier list. In this episode we're going to go through the Chaos and Destruction factions. So if you want to go back and watch the first video about Order and Death, I'll put the link in the description if you haven't watched it already. Then come back and watch this one. So yeah, we're going to run through and add to the last video's tier list. So hope you enjoy it. Right then, so now we are going to go on to the tier list for Chaos and Destruction. So, for those that are watching in YouTube land, these are recorded while we're live Hobby Hangout on Twitch. So, if you want to be a part of these as we record these sort of things, then do consider going and giving us a follow on Twitch. But yes, this is a different day than the video you've literally just watched. So we're going to do a little bit of a catch up for those that have just fast forwarded. Maybe we don't know. But yes, so the last time we did cover Order and Death. So as you can see, where we've ranked things, we go into more in depth in the actual video itself. But this is how we feel these factions rank on their ease of entry for beginners into AOS. Whether that be how easy they are to paint, how easy they are to play, the rules complexity, price of entry, things like that. We covered all that. So where it stands at the moment is that we felt that the Cities of Sigmar and the Soulblight Gravelords were D, that's right at the bottom. C, we had the Elf variety. We had the Lumineth Realm Lords and the Ideneth Deepkin. And then right in the middle, sort of mid-tier, which are... They might have some barrier, but they're still okay for new players, are the Flesh Eater Courts, the Caradron Overlords, and the Sylvaneth. A tier, which are a good solid foundation for someone getting into it to grab, are the Ossiarch Bone Reapers, the Daughters of Cain, and the Fire Slayers, and the Armies, which are just absolute solid choices for any new player coming into the game, are the Stormcast Eternals, the Seraphon, and the Nighthaunt. So yeah, that's the lay of land at the moment. Is it refreshing your memories, guys? Are we? Are we on track? Are we?
Well, I'm feeling that we're kind of in a comfortable place with a nice even split at the moment. Of the two Grand Alliances that we covered. I must call them super factions. Yell at me.
So let's go into this then. So bearing in mind what we've got at the moment, let's start going through some armies. So first up, Beasts of Chaos. Liam, do you want to kickstart us off?
This one is quite a nice army to come into because there's a variety of models that are very easy to put together in comparison to other kits. It's a good contrast army, and when it comes to game-wise, there's a good variety of models. There's very many ways you could go about it,
right?
Making Beast of Chaos army. And you'll come to realise it's got aspects of a glass hammer army and it's got aspects of a tanky army, depending on what build you run.
Right.
I think it's quite a good A-tier army, to be fair.
Yeah. As it's got quite a lot of old sculpts. I think there's still some fine cast in it, which is unfortunate. Yeah. Knocking about, which is a shame. Not great for beginner, that. I think that, I say, a lot of old sculpts, but maybe that's not a bad thing. Army's not massively over complex. It's got one of the best terrain features in the game.
Yeah.
Currently, as time of recording, because I think it's still the board wide effect, so you haven't got to worry about being within a certain bubble of it and things like that. It's either it's affecting the board or it's not. So it's very on or off. That's all you've got to worry about. I think they're very much the complex way to play them is the ambush way, but I think if you take the right units, you can just run and hit.
Yeah.
Sounds like the ambush way is one of these things that I turned around last week, and I said, has the army got opportunity for growth, whether it's your hobby skills, whether it's learning to play the army? It sounds like it's a good starting point, but also it's got a good opportunity for growth in there as well. Yes, I was going to say pretty much similar to Liam. My outlook on these things is more hobby than rules. It's very good for somebody starting out, getting into contrast, starting with that contrast, and then building up your additional highlights on top of that as you gain more confidence. But then you've got other textures, like, as you say, the terrain feature, the herdstone. It's not fur, but it's rock. It's got moss. It's got a lot of opportunity there for different textures and playing about learning that. So if it wasn't for the fine cast aspect, for me, this is edging towards sort of like a low S tier almost. But with the fine cast, I think that knocks it back a little bit to high A. High A,
okay. So are we putting them in the very front?
Who have we got in the very front there?
Ossiarch Bow Reapers, Daughters of Cain, then Fire Slayers.
I would say put them in front of Daughters of Cain, but behind the Bone Reapers.
I agree with that.
Okay. Things can move as we go. Oh, no, not in front of the Bone Reapers. Get back. They just really want to be there, don't they? There we go. Okay. Well, no one's objecting in our Twitch chat, so we will go on to the next faction. So, let's do this one, because this is a bit of a weird one. So, the Oruk warclans book is basically split into different factions, so we're going to treat them as such. So, what we're going to start off with, we're going to divvy it out, and we're going to go straight in with the Savage Oruk stuff.
It's a very niche army. I think it's confined to 3 kits.
Yeah.
That are plastic, and then the rest are fine cast. But with those 3 kits, you have all the different units. So it's a tough one. If you like doing the same models but with a little weapons change, and then a lot of them, then it's a good army in the sense that it's coherent. But I think the fine cast, the amount of models that you have to do can be very overwhelming. And on the tabletop, I feel like if you're not doing mass horde and you're just doing like boar boys, it's a bit difficult to play in certain games.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. There's not a lot really more than to say on what Liam said, to be fair. It is what it is.
It's very niche.
There's so few units. I don't think they perform overly well.
I think the only things that actually perform are the wargameh prophets with the GG masks that do the mortal wounds.
Yes, yeah. I'm borderline putting them in C.
Yeah, I'm fine with that. Maybe even a high D.
Yeah.
There's just nothing really solid to speak about.
I think they're quite.
I mean, they're not bad.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's not a lot of it. There's nothing like exciting about them for new players. You know, there's no.
Yeah. They're
never going to get any love. They're older sculpts as well. It's so. Do you know? It's.
Yeah.
I was going to say you're not exactly selling this army to me, guys.
Sorry, I've just got to be. I got to be honest. Do you know what I mean? Like.
No, I know. But that's what I'm just saying is that I'm kind of going to have to agree with you, because you're not. If I was looking to get into doing an army, it wouldn't be this.
Well, luckily for people that like their Oruks and stuff, is that the book is split up into different things, so you can still use bits of this. So so the other one that we're going to have a look at then is the Iron Jaws.
Iron Jaws, I'd say it's very fun. It's very quick. It's got a variety of models. It's newer sculpts, and it's got a big centerpiece model. And it sort of caters to the beginners, because it's just you move forward, charge, and do combat.
Yeah, you got all the new pigs and stuff like that. Yeah, you can do pig armies and stuff, which is amazing. The new brutes are amazing. Yeah, it's very simple because it wants to do one thing, and that's get across the board quick and smash. They can be resilient, but you don't need to be resilient because there's nothing to hit you back after you've finished.
Yeah, they're very hard hitting, and then go to the next one.
I want to put them top of A, bottom of S.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know if Gareth's got anything to add or any questions that might trigger us to consider differently.
I haven't really, so I'm going to go with your judgment on that one because again,
I think they're strong. Yeah.
And all I just see is usually lots of yellow armored orcs.
I think that's where they go. I mean, we can always review it as we go and see. But so the other thing in the book are the cruel boys. So this is like a different type of orc that we may not have seen, or some of you may not have seen before. They aren't the traditional shape of orcs. They are, they're swamp dwelling orcs,
like monkeys and gangly.
Yeah. Now these are cool. These were the new sculpts that came out with the current edition. So a lot of them available on the market very cheaply. Really cool new sculpts. A lot of them push fit. A lot of pluses there, and they're in the starter boxes, so they are great for beginners.
And they were in the first few issues of the Stormbringer magazine, whatever it is, as well.
Yeah. One would argue they're quite detailed.
They're the sort of details that you can quickly do a contrast.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Like fur pelts, random swamp hide, mushrooms. Like this stuff you can just do a contrast and pick out at the end if you really want to. It's a good grungy army that you can just do free contrast on, and it'll be like no one will bat an eye because they're so in the swamp.
Yeah, they play differently to Ironjaws as well. They're probably need a bit more thought in how to play them. So they're probably not as, I don't know, are they as strong as Ironjaws as a starter army? Because I'd say playability, no, but collectability, yes.
Collectability, yes.
So it kind of balances right. It balances right out, I think.
You
got a lot more thinking to do with this army.
I think you're right, but then I think like Gareth says, sometimes it's easy to get in and start playing them. Perfecting it comes later. Like the harder stuff you can learn as you go. So I think these, just because that they're so readily available so cheaply, they pip Ironjaws.
Yeah.
Just for that reason. So I think you might have to spend a bit more time learning the tactics for the army, but I think that's a very small thing, because I think with any army you have to do that to actually make it good anyway. So none of the armies are just auto sort of play and win. So
The other thing to bear in mind that I've noticed a lot is if you go to some of the independents, they've actually still got Dominion box on the shelves.
Which is a good starting point.
Like Stormcast or Boys, that's a very good, quick, easy starting point for both those armies. Just another starter box if you've got a friend that you play with, and hey ho, you've got 2 rule books and everything quite quickly.
For sure. And then in that book, you can do what we call a big waaagh. So, Liam, you're probably best to talk us through a big waaagh, what it is.
So, big waaagh is a amalgamation of all of the sub-factions that we've just spoken about. They've got a pull point where if you do charges, if you've got characters, or if you've got units above 10, you acclimate points and get buffs for it. So you get like +1s to hit and stuff like that. But it just, model-wise, it brings all of the orc factions together, so you can have a mixed match of a force. So all your favourite models, like for instance, if you want Bolt Boys, but you also want a Maw Crusher, it's more accessible. So you've got more variety and more option of these Oruk warclans armies. So I'd probably say it's above. I'd say it's just under Ironjaws.
Really? That high?
Yeah.
Oh,
because
wow.
it brings all the different, like,
I think we've reached it. I think we've reached a stalemate on this.
Right. So I've got a slightly different perspective on this.
Okay.
Is given that you're collecting different models from different factions, I would hesitate to say that it's massively beginner friendly. Yes, there's an opportunity for growth there. Yeah. I would actually say that it's the top end of A, but behind the other two, because from a beginner perspective, you're probably better off focusing on one of the other two, learning them, and then going, oh, actually, I want something slightly different, and expanding into, say, Iron Jaws if you started off with the other Orc army, and then so I would say that they're a very high A, but I would say they're behind the other two.
Okay,
from the perspective.
I think I'm going to be outvoted then because I was going to put them in C.
Oh, okay. Reasoning, please.
Because I agree that you can get into the faction with one of like the Cruel Boys or the Iron Jaws and then expand on it. But at that point, that is fair. But at that point, you've started an army. Therefore, I wouldn't class you as an absolute beginner. So I'm looking at it from the point of that you have not got an army yet, and you're getting one. What's it like to go straight into Big War? Like I would say it's not good.
I would say that would be tough. So
it's the definition between the two. I agree that if you start off with one of those S tier ones that we've already spoken about and build on it, it's a great strategy to do. But by doing that, then by the time you're doing a Big War, you're not a beginner because you've already started a collection.
So difference then, and put it in B.
So I reckon where it is, right there.
Just
end of B behind Sylvaneth.
Yeah.
Yeah. In front of Sylvaneth, just because it winds up.
Okay.
No, I'm kidding.
It's a democracy. It's a democracy.
No, I just you to say they can't go in front of Sylvaneth.
Mate, I'm happy to listen. I've got my reasonings, but I'm happy to listen to stuff. It's what it's all about. So
let's face it, I'm not here for my knowledge of rules.
No, it's all good. It's all valid points and stuff. So let's go on to some more green-skinned things. Let's go with Gloomspite gitz. I know Liam likes Gloomspite gitz. I like Gloomspite gitz too.
S tier, just for hilarity reasons.
Wow, yeah.
It's just funny.
So, relatively new model range in part. Cool rules. I'd say, I think they're easy to get into.
They've got variety, so if you like monsters, you can just do the squig side of it with all the gribbly mangler squigs, or if you like trolls, if you're heavy infantry, you can do the troll side of it. And both of those units are like fun to build. They're easy to paint with contrast, and then if you do want to take it a step further, you can build into the different aspects of it later on.
Yeah.
On the tabletop, the only thing you really need to worry about is the moon and just the war scrolls.
Yeah.
You didn't mention spiders. I'm guessing there's a reason for
that. Spiders are good. As they're like the Savage Orc side of Gloomspite.
Yeah, and we sold those well.
Yeah, I'd say because
they're all the spiders.
Gloomspite's a weird one because you can have the different not factions, but like sub-factions. They're like spiders, trolls, but it's not separated like the Orc one is. I think it's very similar to how the Skaven are with the different clans. You get one giant army, but it can be like multiple different clans.
Yeah. I agree. I would like to put them behind Daughters of Cain.
Yeah, I think that's a fair shout.
I think there's still a lot of mechanics in there with like the moon, and from
there's a bit more than Daughters.
And from playing it myself, there's a lot of stuff which is like wholly within. So like command abilities, and you need stuff in it. So it is a little bit more like just to make the army work. You know, it's not a thing. It's not the sort of thing like you can kind of forget. It's and get away with it. It needs to. You need to have that locked on point.
A heck of a lot more models, I think, than you do for Daughters of Cain.
Yeah. So I think that's a nice little place for them to sit.
Because I don't think you can do just a whole army of Mangler Squigs somehow.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Here we go then. Sons of Behemat. So
4 models, isn't it?
Like model count, I'll give you that.
Expense can be quite a lot.
It's expensive, but it's good because when you're starting out, you've got not a lot of models to worry about, or your units.
Yeah, which means
and
less
of
war scrolls, less rules.
Yeah. Gives you more time to think about the game. And one mod, like if I'm doing an army of say goblins, I'd probably get bored after the first 20. Whereas each model, although it's big and you might get bored at the end of it, it feels different because you paint it slightly different. So there's more character to it.
Yeah. I think they struggle a bit more playing the actual game, like match play wise. Just because they can't have there's not enough to go around. You you take a casualty and it's like a massive hit.
But as far as learning goes, I think they're one of the better ones because it sort of condenses you into one little corner.
Yeah. Where are we thinking?
I kind of say D simply because of it feels like one that's not beginner friendly apart from the model count.
I mean, low model count means less war scrolls to learn, and most of the base war scrolls are the same. And basically, it's just a couple of rules tweaks. Sorry. What I mean is, all the stats are basically very similar, and the special rules on them are the same. So it's easy to remember stuff. Which is
that feels like anything that they've got going for them.
That is it.
Which is why.
But what? Yeah. So, what are we thinking? Are we thinking top of B though?
I'm saying D.
Oh,
Delta.
D. Oh, really? D?
Nah, I don't. I think they're better than C's. I think
simply because it does not feel like they're beginner friendly in any way, shape, or form.
I think they might be. Think about it. Money wise, they might be expensive for 4 of them, but if you're doing 1,000 points, it's 2 gargants.
Well, the thing is as well, what I want to point out about the expense is that actually a 2,000 point army of those works out about the same cost as a 2,000 point army of any other army. What makes it feel expensive is that each model you buy is £100-ish. You've kind of got to invest it straight away. There's no going into your local hobby shop and saying, I want to start this army, I'm going to get a box of something for 30 quid. There's no entry like that.
There's also yes, okay, it's low model count. It doesn't sound as though they're particularly beginner friendly on painting either. Because of once you got past the flesh side of things, it just feels like there's a sheer amount of detail on it.
Contrast.
Yeah, I think they're easier than I made out. Contrast does work quite well on them.
Everything easy.
I know. I mean, I don't know. Look, I'm gonna put my bit in, and then I'll let you two kind of lay down where it goes. I feel somewhere along the B line.
Low B. What's the lowest one on B?
Seeing as I said split the difference earlier, that kind of makes me feel that maybe high C, seeing as I think that they're just terrible.
Okay. Is it just the detail, though, that makes it terrible?
No, I think they just... It's almost... I feel that as an entry level army, yes, I get what you're saying. Is once you get to 2,000 points, it's probably the same amount of cost as 2,000 points of, let's say, Stormcast.
Yeah.
But it's also that entry point for even just one does not feel beginner friendly, let alone the building of it, let alone the painting of it. Because let's face it, some of the S tier ones we picked is that for all its faults, there are push fit stuff in the S tier stuff, which is very quick and easy to put together. You can spray it with undercoat spray, and you can get painting with either contrast or in Stormcast. You could just spray paint it with a gold or a silver primer.
So we're putting these in high C.
Yeah, we'll go high C then.
We can go and review it again at the end as well, like so we can.
Daz is just going to move it to B once I'm gone.
I'm not. There just might be a few tweaks from the previous session. That's all. Maybe. Right. Oh dear, what's that? Right. Let's go with khorne.
It used to be very straightforward, but now I think rules wise it's got a little bit more clunky.
Yeah.
Like as we've discussed before, it feels like it should just be a move forward, charge and do that sort of army, like Iron Jaws, but it's not. It's a lot more thinking involved with it now.
It also, you said before to me, Daz, that you feel that it's more of a tanky army than a fighty army.
Yeah, it doesn't do what I feel khorne should do.
Khorne's about just fighting. All right, yes, khorne warriors have always been well armored and stuff like that, but
I like khorne. I think, like Liam said, like they're a little bit more complex now than they were. I think they don't fight like khorne. They don't really want to fight. They just want to get hit and stay there a lot of the time. That's only speaking on the behalf of a few of the units. You've got painting side, a lot of trim, a lot of detail. There's a lot going on. Even things like if you just want to take your bog standard stuff like the blood reavers and stuff, you've got all the skin with all like the straps, buckles, and trim on the armor plates and hair, and it's like there's a lot even on your basic stuff. Like the only thing I would say that would have been going for it is that it was once in a starter box, but I think that was long enough ago now that those kits aren't really readily available like some of the more modern ones. So I would say that you know, if you're getting into khorne, you're not picking up the old start stuff. You are having to buy individual boxes as you need them, so therefore there's no ease of entry any more so than any other army, I guess. Yeah.
AOS 2.0 that they were the starter in.
They were on the very first one.
They were the first.
That's where I think they should go anyway. Middle of D.
Yeah, I reckon.
Yeah, I'd agree.
Yeah, I'll go with that.
I think just the amount of trim and stuff is just a nightmare. Even as someone that paints like regularly, that's been in the hobby a while, it's a nightmare.
But at the same time, I'm not exactly a beginner.
Exactly.
My painting skills.
This is it. I'd say, you know, and it's, you know, we mentioned some of these reasons for Sigmar as well. I just think that khorne is just that, but amplified.
Yeah, it's just a very fiddly army in all sort of it.
Yeah.
And it doesn't do what you expect it to do.
Right. So I think I should take the lead on this next one.
What's that?
Nurgle.
You don't have a Nurgle army though.
No, but I wanted to. I have a T-shirt. I will go on and say I want to put these in S somewhere.
Right, models.
Because
a lot of
decent
contrast.
range. Yeah, decent range of models, perfect for contrast and dry brushing. The army plays relatively simply.
Quite resilient, quite fast actually if you want it to be, with like all the flies and stuff like that. With the terrain piece, you can speed up even plague bearers to be faster than some other armies, which is weird for a nurgle army. And yeah, there's mortal wounds and mortal wound defense. They spit out mortal wounds and they can take mortal wounds and tank them.
Yeah.
So great defense, great offense. A lot going for them. The only thing that isn't going for them, I'd say, is like just the availability that some of these others in S have. So like Stormcast, you can pick up quite easily, readily available. Nighthaunt the same, and the same with the Cruel Boys. They're all in starter sets. I think that Seraphon stay ahead just for the pure fact that they are very strong. So I don't know if Seraphon is sat in the right place, to be fair. But that's my take on it all. I feel somewhere in S. I'm not sure where, but I'm happy for other people to put their bit in.
I want to demote them to B for having the temerity to be faster than some armies, given their nurgle.
That's not valid.
But yeah, I'm messing about with that.
Not valid. Overruled. I think they're quite good because if you're learning the game, it's an army that's resilient, so it allows you to make more mistakes and learn from them. So like 1 minute you'll be moving them forward, and then the next turn you get charged. You'll think, oh, maybe I shouldn't have moved them so far forward. I've gotten charged, but then you're tanky enough to survive that charge. It gives you a lot more thinking and a lot more time to learn your units.
You've not got the feel bad factor of you've just an expensive unit in an instant because you've overreached yourself.
Exactly.
So I personally think, so I'm going to say behind Nighthaunt but in front of the Oruk stuff.
Oh yeah.
But I'm going to put this out here now. I want to demote Seraphon.
Want to demote Seraphon?
To behind Nurgle.
I don't know. Because Seraphon can be simple in the fact that you can just run monsters and contrast them. And they're still relatively cheap models as well in comparison.
Yeah.
I think that it's one of the best selling ranges that GW has had in the past 20 years because it's still around, it's still from fantasy, and they've had a lot more new love for it now.
So you think you're happy where it is?
I'm happy with Seraphon.
There's part of me that feels we put Seraphon in front of Nighthaunt for a reason. So I wouldn't feel happy bouncing it down 2 without some very good reasoning.
I'm just looking at the lineup now, and I'm thinking, Nighthaunt more readily available in starters and things like that are still floating about. Super easy to paint and quite easy to play, because obviously you don't have to worry about modifiers to your saves or anything like that and that sort of stuff. And Nurgle we've just spoken about. I just think that their ease, their ease of painting and just getting on a tabletop and playing out the book with not much thought, I think is a lot easier than Seraphon.
It's a tough one. I reckon they're just under Seraphon, same as Nighthaunt, but they're not fiddly, which is good for Nurgle. So I'd say they're slightly above Nighthaunt.
Let's leave it where it is then. It was just me throwing an idea out. We know you like your dinosaurs, Liam. Also, you got to say is
Daz doesn't want them ahead of Nighthaunt, but he desperately wants to demote the dinosaurs.
Speaking of just demoting all the way, let's just put Skaven at the bottom of D.
Yeah. It's not a good range at the minute.
Let's just talk about this. Right? Yeah.
The range in the starter boxes, I feel, are focused too much on Plague Monks, which for me feels a little bit too much like it's another Nurgle army, and doesn't. There aren't enough new models to lean into.
Half the range is fine cast.
Yeah.
Within Skaven factions, because obviously, and this is one I can speak on a little bit more than the rest because I know them a bit too well. You've got your main factions within Skaven that have always been around: Clan Pestilence, which is your Plague Monks; Clan Skyer, which are your complete lunatic engineers, which I love to pieces; Clan Eshin, the Master Clan over the top of it all; the Moulder Clan, which is where you get your sort of like your beasts, your rat ogres, your rat swarms, and some really horrible, almost chaos spawn type rats. But a lot of them are the older plastic sculpts, or as Liam says, they're fine cast, which are not beginner friendly. You're also looking at, even if it's just like clan rats and storm vermin, that's probably 60 models. Probably looking at 40 if you went with Clan Pestilence Plague Monks.
Yeah.
But yes, there are some nice models. There's the nice new Screaming Bell with grey sear on. You've got your loony models like your Lightning Cannon and stuff like that do really fancy stuff. But I mean, to me, it's D. It's probably Sons of Behemat D, but it's D.
Yeah, I agree. There's nothing good about Skaven for a beginner at all.
Until some new models, the rules. I think the rules are great. The rules are quite fun.
They are, but yeah, they're just like.
But the models are not. Apart from once you've got them built, they're ideal for contrast.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you've got to sit and build however many.
Yeah, they've still got details on that you got to worry about, and I mean the other thing as well is that they don't really stand up in a fight, and they can't take a beating either.
No, they're very clunky.
It's just a lot of bad feels to be had, I think.
Oh,
I think they're the lowest of the low. I think they're bins there.
Some of the best units, looking at the Skyer Acolytes, are actually still in metal.
Quality.
Yeah.
Which, fine, is better than Finecast in my opinion, but then I've worked with metal models before. It's not a good starting point for a beginner.
No. So yeah, there we go. That's where we straight away. No arguments.
No, Sons of Behemat.
Yeah.
Sons of Behemat level of D.
What are you on about? They're not in D.
I've allowed your other shenanigans.
There's no way Skaven are going above Soulblight Gravelords.
Well, you're definitely
Skaven's bin tier.
Ah?
Nope, you're
bin tier for Skaven.
I'll definitely argue against demoting Seraphon then, if you're going to be like that.
Yeah, I agree not to demote Seraphon.
There we go then.
Yeah, no, I was challenging the idea.
No, you
Skaven
weren't.
in bin tier.
You were desperate.
If there was a way of not putting Skaven on here, I would.
Just put it in bin tier. Make a new category.
I can't.
I think we need to talk about the case for demoting Sylvaneth.
No. Well, actually, I think I said C to begin with, but you wanted to put them up. But yeah.
See where we are when we're finished.
But yes, Ogre mawtribes.
This one's a weird one. They're very much like Iron Jaws in the sense you just run forward and charge. There is some options for shooting. The kits are relatively easy to put together in comparison to some of the newer armies. They're very clunky in the sense if you drop them, nothing's going to break off. They're bulky models. Good contrast army.
Yeah, hit hard, durable.
What's model count?
They're relatively.
Yeah, low model count.
I think they're relatively cheap as well for like an army of them, especially if you do Beast Claw.
Yeah, they're pretty good. I think definitely somewhere in A tier.
I would say they're
Possibly high A tier. I'd probably put them top of 80. I'd put them top of 80, actually. You think Ossiarch Bone Reapers? I would say Ossiarchs are just as easy to paint, maybe a bit easier if you wanted to. But I think that Ogres have that benefit of that if you want to get low model count, just charge at the enemy and
be charging.
Yeah, always. And that's what makes an army very beginner friendly to play, at least. Because they allow you to make mistakes, because you can charge the wrong opponent, and you're probably still going to have models left. You're still going to take a chunk out of that opponent. You're going to feel it. So I think there's they allow you to make a lot of errors.
Yeah.
I think they're really good for beginners, actually. And like you said, quite cheap to buy, contrast friendly.
Yeah.
I mean, unless anyone's got anything else to add, I think that's where they live.
Yeah, I don't know them well enough. I don't know whether there's variety of models or the like, so I can't really say on that one.
Bosh! There we go. We love it. We love a bit of ogres in there.
All ogre now.
Alright. Last few chaos then. Slaanesh. Here we go.
We have gone at this slightly differently than the last time, whereas last time we did actually go through each Grand Alliance.
This one's in alphabetical order, isn't it?
I've literally, just gone through the last two together.
Slaanesh, very fiddly models. I think Demonettes mainly made me want to headbutt a wall. Building the chariots for them hurt my fingertips, and they're so they're so elegant and thin, like fragile bits.
Super detailed, like crazy. The new mortal stuff, like the Blissbarb archers and stuff like that, just crazy.
Yeah,
like for what they are.
So detailed, and it's like the centerpiece model, Oruk or whatever. He's like got marble on him. Yeah. He's a marbled throne. Like if you start looking at like the boxes, which I did as inspiration, I'll be so overwhelmed by marble and all the different textures on every model, and it's a weird one. And it's a summoning army, so not only do you have to start the army, you have to get 2 of the army for the summoning side of it.
And unless you choose to completely ignore summoning, which I think Rich knows, Necromancer without a hat usually plays it. Rich usually the non-summoning army because it does something for him in terms of his battle tactics. But again, if you're doing that, you then might as well play something else that doesn't involve the summoning mechanics.
What are we thinking? Do they fall below Sylvaneth or above?
I reckon they're the same as Khorne.
Right down there.
Yeah, I reckon they're the same as Khorne.
I was going to go bottom end of C.
Okay. Right. So I guess the question we've got to ask ourselves now is, what puts them above Khorne? Now Liam said that they should be down by Khorne, and obviously Gareth said that the low end of C, which is obviously a rank above.
That was my gut feeling.
Yeah, so now I'm just thinking, now we can whittle it down. Now we know whereabouts in the table they're going. We've kind of got to decide what makes them better or the same or worse than Khorne, as we've put them down there.
I think it's very similar to Khorne in the sense of it's the mortal side of it with all the flesh. It's all the trim, but then there's a lot more different textures on the Slaanesh stuff as well. They're fiddlier models.
What about playability?
They're very niche like Khorne. They're not as tanky, so you will get flattened a lot more.
But then we've got Daughters of Cain up near the top, which are a very much a glass cannon army. So from the perspective of their army mechanics, if you ignore the summoning side of things, which you can do, if I remember correctly, you basically the points that you gain give you bonuses or give the enemy negatives, I can't remember which, in a very similar way that turn by turn, Daughters of Cain gain something.
Mm-hmm.
Also, I think it's an army for a beginner who's maybe a little bit of a joker, because the one mechanic we didn't mention is the temptation dice, which basically you have a bunch of temptation dice that you can give out each turn, and it gives your opponent an 6. Now, if the opponent accepts, you get more points. If the opponent declines, the opponent takes mortal wounds, which is a very simple mechanic to remember. Mm-hmm. You just then track your points. And to me, that's it's a fun mechanic, which would appeal to potentially a certain type of beginner to getting to. It's your prankster beginner, which I think is those sorts of simple but room to grow in terms of, do you want to go down the summoning route? That's probably why I'm considering low C.
Low C. I think if they're going low C, I can see points both sides. Do they go above Savage Orcs?
No, I was just putting in the bottom of C.
Bottom of C. Done. There we go. Everybody's happy.
Oh, yeah.
Right. Tzeentch. I think painting-wise, a lot easier than the other Chaos, apart from Nurgle, obviously, because not a lot of trim. Dry again, like the Nurgle, it's dry brushy, it's contrasty, cool. A lot of magic, and I think like magic and stuff is probably some of the harder mechanics to work right. Like the cores of it are fine, but there's a bit more to it. So it makes it a little bit more difficult to play because you rely heavily on magic.
They've got a variety of what they can do because they can do everything. They've got units that can do everything in every phase. Mm-hmm. So you've got primarily magic, what they do. They've got a lot of shooting with the pink horrors having I think flame attack. Yeah. They've got the Tzeentch Beastman with the bows, and they've got all the exalted flamers that are flamethrowers. So theoretically, you can do a gunline army of them, and you can do a close combat army with them with the Zangor side enlightened on discs.
Yeah.
All the Zangors on foot, and you can just do a tar pitting unit of 10 pink horrors that turn into 50 wounds essentially.
Yeah.
They've got possibilities for all of that.
I think they go a bit higher than we have been.
Yeah.
I think that it's got a learning curve, but then what army hasn't? But I think it's got tools for most things, and it's quite simple to put together. Maybe somewhere in A even.
So I've got a bit of counterpoint on that. With an army that has the ability to do so many different things, is there potential for almost a level of decision anxiety to how am I going to build this army? Because it can almost do everything, and if you try and make it do everything, it might not do everything well. But what do you pick?
That's what I mean. I don't think it matters too much.
Okay.
I think that
my gut was saying high B.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, I'm happy with high B.
Yeah, I'm happy with high B.
Are we going high B?
What have we got at the front of B?
Flesh Eaters, Caradron, Sylvaneth. I'd say high B.
Yeah, I would say that they're probably, in some respects, easier to paint than Caradrons.
Yeah.
Probably easier to paint than Flesh Eaters as well.
Yeah, there we are then, yeah. Right at the front.
Put them on top of B.
Yeah. There you go. Right, last one. Slaves to Darkness.
It's like Stormcast in the sense that it's all the sort of same textures across the army apart from the odd unit that's not. It's got a good variety of units. very straightforward. It's essentially just a war scroll, and then you might need to learn what mark of chaos or whatever flavour of chaos you want.
Mm.
So I would say they're relatively easy to get model-wise as well. Not fragile at all. Tabletop, they're very resilient and they can have damage. They don't really focus on shooting. They've got some decent hero face stuff like rituals with some priests and some magic, but I'd say they're predominantly combat orientated.
And they've just had some relatively new models as well.
Exactly. Like a lot of this stuff you can do a contrast or even a spray and a dry brush. Like it's a good like armoured army.
Yeah.
So I'd say they're above Tzeentch, but then I'm not sure what the ranking is in A.
Ogres, Ossiarchs, Beasts, Daughters, Gloomspite, Fireslayers.
I'd say
from
they're...
a perspective, I would personally feel they're actually better than Daughters, simply because they are, I feel in some respects, they seem more resilient. But you've got the Knights, which are apparently quite decent. Quite fast moving, quite hard hitting on the charge. So it's quite easy to get them across the table, but because they're a bit more resilient, add that to, as you say, they're almost a reverse Stormcast in that, okay, you could probably do silver or gold if you wanted to.
Yeah.
But predominantly maybe dark colours, or even leaning towards, if you want to do nurgle, to mark of nurgle to make them resilient, you paint them in a very similar fashion to the nurgle at Demons faction that we spoke about. So I would say that they should be ahead of Daughters potentially.
Yeah, that's fair. Let's do that.
Yeah.
Right.
I'm happy between Daughters and Beasts.
So there we have it. Okay. So I'm going to go through the order now. So any amendments, shout them out. Stop me. So this is our final take on a beginner-friendly Age of Sigmar armies to get into. So we'll go from the bottom. Should we go from the bottom up?
Yeah.
Right. So ones to avoid as a beginner. At the very bottom, you've got Skaven. You've got Soulblight Gravelords. You've got Khorne, and you've got Cities of Sigmar.
Yeah.
Then C, which is stuff that you probably still want to avoid for a beginner, are Slaanesh, Savage Orcs, Idenef Deepkin, Luminef Realmlords, and Sons of Behemat.
Yeah.
And then stuff in the middle, which is stuff that, if you're feeling brave, go for it as a beginner, obviously, and you might, should be okay, but not optimized beginner stuff.
I would say your B is somebody who's either confident with modelling, excuse me, but new to Age of Sigmar, or confident with their wargaming, and new to Age of Sigmar. So maybe somebody transferring across from 40k or the like, because they're familiar with the types of rules.
Yeah. So in that one, we've got the Big Waaagh, we've got Sylvaneth, we've got Caradron Overlords, Flesh Eater Courts, and then Tzeentch.
Yeah.
Now we're into A tier. So A tier is stuff that we are recommending in this order to people getting into it. A little bit more involved, whether that's painting, learning rules, but not completely out of reach. Perfectly good beginner armies. Our Fire Slayers, Gloomspite Gitz, Daughters of Cain, Slaves of Darkness, Beasts of Chaos, Ossiarch Bone Reapers, and Ogre mawtribes.
I'm happy with that rankings.
And then your top tier stuff, so great starter armies for people, is the Iron Jaws, the Cruel Boys, Maggotkin of Nurgle, Nighthaunt, Seraphon, and Stormcast Eternals. There you are.
I kind of want to demote Stormcast, but that's on sheer principle.
Yeah, well, we can't do that. You can do your own separate list, and I can include it at the end.
The Skaven still would not make it out of D tier.
It'll be in the bin tier.
I need a bin tier. But yeah, there we go. So, everyone on YouTube land, I hope you have enjoyed this. Let us know what you think in the comments. Let us know where you think things should be. Tell us that we're wrong, it's fine. And say, don't forget to subscribe and like and all that jazz, it really helps. And if you want to take part in these sort of things when we record them, then you can always join us on Twitch. Just give us a follow, Dasmore Wargaming on Twitch. That's always appreciated. Right now, we're going to go back and do some Hangout and Hobby on Twitch. So I just want to say thank you to my co-host, Mr. Gareth Dante Paints. Thank you for joining.
Not a problem at all. Thank you for the invite.
No worries. And thank you to Mr. Liam Badley for coming and helping us out with this too. Much appreciated, mate.
Oh, yeah.
So, everyone in YouTube land, we will see you soon, and stick around people in Twitch. So, until next time, everyone, stay safe and happy hobby all. Bye-bye.